92 million tons of waste is generated annually, and it's on the rise. In a world obsessed with cutting emissions and conserving resources, there's a quiet culprit threading its way through our lives largely unnoticed. Textile waste. We think creating new clothes is a harmless act, but in reality, it contributes a lot to climate change. Every shirt, every dress, every pair of jeans is more than just a piece of fabric. It's a carbon footprint waiting to happen. In fact, in the fashion industry, 30% of clothing produced is unsold. That 30%, that was 50 billion garments this year that were produced but never sold. That core issue lies in the overproduction rather than the overconsumption. So, although you might not care about overproduction, what if I told you it had a huge environmental impact? It contributes to 10% of global carbon emissions, and it's rising. Just to put that number in perspective, that's more than international flights and maritime shipping combined. And the main cause of that overproduction? That's inaccurate demand forecasting. Essentially, companies produce excess items to avoid stockouts, but when those items don't sell, they're discarded, leading to not only a financial loss, but environmental damage. Improving that forecasting accuracy can help align production with real demand and reducing waste that way. But it's not that simple. Currently, to forecast fashion trends, companies use their own internal specific data. But there's a growing need for companies to look at external data to provide contextual information because businesses are being affected by more and more external factors, which is why current methods such as regression models are not the most reliable. To enhance forecasting, there's a need to incorporate both internal and external data. So, introducing ThreadReduce. ThreadReduce is a KERN-based AI that does two things. It predicts future fashion trends by analyzing historical and real-time data that includes social media trends, online search patterns, and current sales data. So it looks at the internal and the external. And it also recommends a range of quantity of units to produce by evaluating the current inventory, the sales trends, and the forecasted demand. Essentially, acting as a weather forecast for fashion. Now that we understand that, let's look at what the hell KERN is. So KERN, or a knowledge-enhanced recurrent network, is built on top of long short-term memory networks. Essentially, it applies the contextual information like what's going on social media and what people are buying to historical trends like the increased demand during Christmas time. And by doing all that fancy math, it figures out trends. Here's what that looks like. We can see the trends for total sales, production, and waste here. We can see the AI analysis. We can see social media trends. And this is how it would work. How it works? It's like a super smart detective that looks at a ton of information, time series data, relationships between items, attributes of clothing, what people are buying on social media. It looks at all of that. And what it can do is then figure out what people are going to buy in the coming time. And the couple steps that it takes before that is the implementation plan. So data collection being the most important here, as we're looking at the company's internal data and external contextual information like social media. So by doing all of this and deploying the model, the impact we see is astounding. It's 1.16 gigatons of CO2 emissions, over 1/3 of the UN's 3 gigaton per year reduction requirement. And that's not the craziest part. It saves 15.6 trillion liters of water and reduces microplastics in the ocean so much so that we could make 14 billion plastic water bottles. If those numbers don't hit you, I don't know what will. And the economic incentives are ridiculous. Companies like H&M and Zara are saving in the billions. So not only is ThreadReduce cutting the environmental damage to the world, it's saving billions of dollars. And all that money can be used to remedy the pre-existing impacts of the fashion industry. So let's look towards the future of textile waste, a world where it doesn't exist.